Hello and welcome to the daily newspaper analysis and initiative of the UPSConline.com and Ambition IS. Today we shall be discussing the newspaper of the 31st of December 2017. This being a Sunday newspaper, it does not have any editorial, so very few articles are of importance. So coming to the first article, focus on senior citizens too. The opinion that the author has given is that in the din surrounding India's demographic dividend, the elderly are forgotten. Now, the context of the article is given within the opinion itself that the elderly in the country are forgotten. Another context is that the population of the elderly is bound to rise in the aftermath of better health facilities, which has resulted in increased life expectancy. Further, because of the ballooning demographic dividend of India, the future of India is definitely more elderly. So the government needs to have good preparedness to deal with the changing demography of the country. That is another thing relevant in the context. Now, the article has some very important issues which can be used in any answer on the elderly specifically. Also, in context of analyzing social issues in the country. Also, in essays, these points are of some relevance. So that is what is the relevance of this editorial. Now, coming to the first issue, that is of a scandalously low pension for the senior citizens, which at present is rupees 200 per month. This, the author says, has continued from the year 2006, and so effectively from the prism of inflation, if you will see, the effective pension is somehow rupees 100 itself, which is less than the daily minimum wage notified by the government. So it is rather something very, very disappointing in this regard that this low pension is offered, and it is, rather no pension at all. That is what is the opinion of various experts. He has mentioned Madam Aruna Roy as one of the experts who has continuously claimed and brought this issue to the fore, but the government has not paid much heed to it. Another thing is that in the noise surrounding, as it's mentioned in the opinion also, that in the noise surrounding the demographic dividend, the elderly are being forgotten. Now, some data and statistics has been given in the editorial, which is important. That is, as per the census 2011, there are 104 million elderly persons in India. Also, the average Indian can expect to live at least 18 years beyond the age of 60, because it's beyond 60 that a person is considered as a senior citizen. Therefore, the dependency ratio is bound to rise in the country. Also, social structures are changing, and there is a shift from joint family to a nuclear family. In such a scenario, the social support system of the elderly is already weakening, and the state has to step up to fill this vacuum, which is not happening. Another thing is that there is no institutional support for the elderly, despite the fact that the cost of both living as well as the cost of Medicare in the country is on a rise. That is another important issue. Another thing that you have to understand is a very good analysis of that the author in this editorial has brought about. He says that only the government employees are eligible for a pension in this country. So, the middle class elderly who are not in government service are largely dependent upon their savings and the interest that they are accruing on those savings. Now, in the aftermath of decreasing interest rates in the economy, these people who are considerably affluent or considerably middle class in the entire society are also falling vulnerable to the challenges of the elderly. So this is something that the author has brought about, that it's not only the poor strata of the society but rather the middle class also who are vulnerable. Another thing is that the maintenance, the government in 2007 had made a law in this regard, the maintenance and welfare of parents and senior citizens. However, the law, despite its noble commitments, is somehow poorly implemented. That is a major concern. The law has provisions for making maintenance of parents and senior citizens by children or relatives obligatory and justiciable through tribunals. It has envisages other provisions like revocation of transfer of property by senior citizen, establishing of old age homes for the poor, adequate medical facilities. But by its own admission, the Ministry of Social Justice has said that there is a deep need to revamp its integrated program for older persons, which was launched in the year 1992, and very few people have been able to benefit out of the government programs. So that is a major cause of concern. Further, the article has given some suggestions in this regard. The first is that the minimum universal monthly pension of rupees 2000 should be ensured to the senior citizens as compared to the rupees 200 pension that is being given at present. The author makes a good claim with that a $2 trillion economy can definitely afford such social welfare for its elderly. Another thing is that housing for the aged is something that is of utmost importance at this present moment, especially in the backdrop of changing societal norms from joint families to nuclear families. Further, he says that there should be the housing program for the poor should become a subset of the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. This is a very good suggestion, and I would suggest that you should make a note of this. Also, he suggests that assisted living facilities for the needy elderly, especially those with age-related issues like dementia, needs to be established. Then giving more tax breaks, or at least removing tax on deposit interest for seniors. As I had mentioned previously, that because of low interest rates, this elderly, the senior citizens of the middle class who are largely dependent on the savings are becoming vulnerable and, to exploitation or to hardships in old age. He's made a good suggestion that they should be offered more tax breaks and they should be given tax incentives on their interest rates. So that will remove this segment of the vulnerable people from hardships. Another thing is that tapping into the experience and skills of this segment to ensure that older persons can be productive and contributory members of the society. This opinion has been echoed even by our Prime Minister, where he has said that we should we should have a repository of their skills. India is definitely a country which has low skill set. The population having developed skills is low. So in that respect, the elderly need to be made greater participants in the economy. So that's about this article. Coming to the next article. This is the article on the when, where, why page of the Hindu. And though the article is not a very descriptive one on the Kashmir issue, it has some points which you could use somewhere else in any opportunity regarding Jammu and Kashmir. So those points I shall be referring. First and foremost, what is the context of the article? The context is that there is an increased local support for militancy, with youth from Valley joining its ranks in Kashmir. So this is a major concern. This has been a concern for a long time, but the percentage of the youth support for militancy has been on a rise recently. So that is a major concern. Also, that despite this is happening despite the soft approach that has been adopted by both the army and the police in Kashmir. So that is an issue. Also, there is an issue of surrendering. The government has offered various opportunities for the youths to surrender, though the youths who have joined militancy to surrender even at the times of encounters. Very comfortable packages of surrender have been offered, where they shall not be targeted, and they shall not be picked upon by the government, and they shall be allowed to join the mainstream. So that is something that is a good initiative by the government. Many youths have already surrendered, and many are on the way to surrendering. That is another point. Some good points have been mentioned, that the families are making videos for weaning away the youth from the militancy movement. So that is one good suggestion here. Another thing that has been mentioned, which I would suggest, that in any article on Kashmir, any answer on Kashmir has repeatedly mentioned, is the hopes from this new initiative by the government, where Mr. Dinesh Sharma has been selected as the Government of India's special representative for Kashmir. This is in line with government's policy of quiet diplomacy in Kashmir and bringing all the stakeholders on board. So many hopes are being raised from this this idea of a special representative, and it's expected that this will also ensure weaning away the youth from joining the militancy movement in Kashmir. Also important is another point, that the hardliner groups are getting more and more support in Kashmir. So this is a cause for concern. This article is important not only in the context of the internal security, but somehow in the diplomacy also. There it has its relevance. So that's about today's discussion. Before I end, I would like to make an information. We are starting with a UPSC prelims cum mains classes from the 2nd of January 2018 at 10 a.m. It shall be covering all the major topics relevant for UPSC. It will include NCERT's daily newspaper, prelims test series and mains answer writing on a daily basis. So if you are interested, I would request you all to contact us and recommend the same to your friends. these are our contact details, our address, as well as our phone number. So with that, I finished today's discussion. I thank you all for watching this video. I hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you.